All right. What is up, everyone? The Refill Studio is back. New episode, which means everyone, let's refill to 299 and the set will begin. Today, I have the great honor and pleasure to have a special guest, Mikayla, joining us for the Refill Studio. Mikayla, just a bit of an intro. Most notably, she got first place in Separate Paths Under One Sky, and has been a big figurehead of the Bandori community for quite some time. So, Mikayla, again, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Anything else you want to add into that intro that I just gave you?
Um, Not too much. I mean, I guess I'm known for tiering Afterglow events. I've gotten four titles that were top 10 or above, and all of them were Afterglow. I do like other bands and characters, but they're just who I choose to tier for. And I've been in the community I've been playing the game for over 3 years, and I would say I've been in the tiering community for a bit over 2. And yeah, so I know a lot of people as a result of that. So I think I have a lot to talk about.
Okay, well, that's great. You mentioned that you got into the game over 3 years ago. Tell me, how did you first get into the game? How did you hear about Bandori? How did you get into it?
So I think I first installed the game just from word of mouth. I think I saw some friend on Twitter mention it, and I'm not sure if this is true, but like I'm pretty sure the App Store says that I installed it like when it came out, which is hilarious to me because I didn't end up actually playing the game until months later. And the first event that I actually played was, or the first event that I played the game during was Tanzaku, the Sayohina event. But the first event that I like actually played for rewards and got the event title, or not event title, event card for was When the Flowers Bloom, the Chisato event. So this is that's like summer 2019? Or wait, no, sorry, summer 2018. Yeah.
Oh, very, very interesting. Now, you also mentioned that your main priority when it comes to tiering is for Afterglow. So what made Afterglow your favorite band? What draws what part of Afterglow draws your attention, and what do you like so much about them?
So this isn't the reason I like them by any means, but I think what drew me to them originally was the Persona collab, because Persona at least was my favorite video game series. I haven't really thought about what my favorite is now. It could still be that, but I was like very involved in Persona communities back then. So when I saw that collab, I think that's what got me to actually like turn on the game finally. I don't think I realized that it was a JP only collab at the time, but it still got me to pay attention to the game. Aside from that, I always really liked Ran's character design. I think she sticks out a lot, mostly because of her hair. But like, I don't know. I just always thought she was cool, and I think I don't know how much I listened to at the time, but I definitely was into some of their music. I remember there was some playlist I listened to, and Heyday Capriccio really got my attention. And yeah. Should I like talk about what I like about them in general, or were you just asking?
Yeah, what makes you so attached and fond to them, and you mentioned a big mix of the fact that Ron is a character that you enjoy, and some of the songs as well. Is Ron and still your favorite character to this day? And Is our Afterglow song still something you listen to and you enjoy?
She is, I would say, but I would say Sugu ties her for that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm like bad at deciding. I feel like by now it's probably back to just being Run as my favorite, but for a while at least they were like really close and I could never decide. But I also haven't read stories nearly as much in a while. Need to get back to that. But yeah, they have good stories. I really like the group dynamic. I like the other characters too, but those two like are definitely my favorites.
For sure, for sure. Good, good. So why don't we talk a little bit more about how you got into to tiering? You mentioned that one of the very first events that you kind of at least did a relatively high sort of tiering event was the Chisato event in the summer. Was that like a T100, and was that done in like a tiering server or in pubs?
No, no, no. That was just my first time getting the event card.
Oh, okay.
The first time I actually got a title was I want to say 2 events after that. Whenever the Afterglow was. And that was when Heyday came out, so I was like really looking forward to being able to play that, even though I couldn't even pass it on Expert. I really liked the song, so I wanted to be able to play it. And the title is really, really nice. It's still one of my favorite ones. So early on, I was like, burning all my CP immediately, getting level ups and stuff. So I was like up in T100. That didn't last because I didn't refill at all. But I was like keeping T1000 pace pretty decently, and then I had to travel and I lost it by a little bit. So that's my first title. I have a T 2500 for that. And I would say that was like my first experience, but that was like purely pubs. And I don't know if my team was like the best it could have been. To be fair, I had bad cards, so like I don't know that there was that much room for improvement anyway. But like I basically did this like completely by myself.
Interesting, interesting. So obviously that was kind of like your first experience of the boat in a sense, losing the top 1K title right off the bat. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that you kind of started there and then just kind of grew on from there. So how did you eventually learn about the community in tiering and how people work together in order to tier for events?
So I think it was during that event or around that time that I ended up joining PubCord. And I ended up I lurked there for a while. I didn't really talk immediately, but eventually I did, and I just was around people who tiered, and that got me interested, especially stuff like really big events like Umbrella and Lisa's Lyrics, where the entire T10 was like, well, for one, most of them were like working together, but also most of them were like, a lot of them were talking in the server in PubCord about it. So like I got a lot of exposure to that, and it got me pretty interested. But I didn't actually go for a T100 for a while. I was like still struggling to like have teams good enough to T1K for quite some time because I didn't really gotcha too much. I was saving for Persona mainly. And my plan was to let my first T100 be then. I really wanted to go higher, but like my team free gacha was like really, really bad. And spoilers, my team post gacha was really, really bad. That gacha did not work out for me at all.
Ooh. Well,
I didn't save too much, but for fully free to play, I think I got like a few happy boxes, but like I had like 35K, which is a good amount of saving, but yeah. So what ended up happening there was, I was hoping I would like get one of the rate ups early and then I could T100. But for one, I didn't. And two, I underestimated how expensive that would be to T100 because it was the first collab, so no one really knew at all. So that wasn't my first T100. So yeah, I just plan to do it like later down the line. There were a couple of events near the summer that had my interest, which were Girls Anthology and Cursed Well, the Kaoru Hina event, which also has Ren and Lisa, who were my two favorites at the time. So my plan was to T100 Girls Anthology and try to T10 Cursed Well, because I heard it looked really dead. And I ended up getting some advice about going for that, and I figured I was in a good enough position to do so. I don't know if you have any idea what happened, but I ended up T10 in Girls Anthology instead.
Oh, so what sort of triggered that whale fluence change?
Well, I had enough resources. I liked the title more. I liked the set. I don't think it's a very popular set, but I liked it. And yeah, I had the resources, and it was really dead, and I just sniped it.
Through pub,
towards
right?
the end.
It was through pubs that you sniped it?
No, so I was in the tiering server for this one.
Okay.
And yeah, this was my first tiering server experience at all. And honestly, it was like really easy. Like I sniped in, and the people I sniped like didn't really fight back. It was weird.
Oh. It's a pretty unique experience there.
Yeah, basically I ended up switching the event that I was gonna T10 with one that I thought I was gonna just T100. And then I didn't end up going for anything on Cursed Well. Just I think I was saving at that point because I had already gotten my T10, and also the title didn't really interest me in English. I don't like how it looks.
So definitely when it comes to tiering for events, one of your criteria is whether or not the title looks looks pretty, and if it's not pretty, then it's a pass.
Yeah, more or less. I would say it's a factor.
For sure.
I think if there's an event that I really care about, like I wouldn't mind if the title is a bit less than desired. Like the two that I went for podium for, like I planned ahead. I wasn't gonna just drop them if the title was bad. But like, I mean, this one, like I already had my T10, and then the title was bad, so I was like, okay, I don't need to T100 this. I can just skip this.
Oh well, again, it's pretty, I guess, intriguing the fact that even someone like you, right, for our viewers out there listening to this podcast, right, these people getting top ones or top tens, it doesn't like happen overnight. There's a lot of adversities that they go through. Missing a top 1,000 for the first time, then missing a top 100 for the first time, and then kind of finding the ways to adjust and adapt and be able to do better, and then eventually get that top one. So very interesting that you're able to overcome those challenges and end up getting the T10 that you kind of accidentally got, but got regardless. When you joined that tiering server, like what was like your first impression and first experience like in that server for Girls Anthology?
Well, I could talk a bit about how I joined it first.
Sure.
To begin with. So since I saw a lot of like tiering stuff going on in Popcorn, I mean, I was pretty interested, but it was at the time very hard to break into the community and like check that out. So what ended up happening was there was this Afterglow clan server that someone made. And I was able to get into that a lot easier. Like, I think I just asked and I got in. I think I had asked to get into tiering servers before that point and was not able to get in, but I don't remember. But yeah, I got into this Afterglow server. It actually merged with another Afterglow server. There was like a whole thing with that. It was weird. That's like a whole story of its own. But from there, then I was basically in like the real like Afterglow server, which is called BAGS, and it's like really dead now, but it stands for Best Afterglow Server. It originally stood for Better Afterglow Server, and it was trying to like, you know, make fun of the other one that existed at the time, but yeah, that's where I ended up meeting a bunch of people, and one of the people in there who was planning on tiering was Mish, and he decided to make a server for Girls Anthology. And yeah, I mean, I was able to just get in. I was really eager to like, you know, meet these people who also played the game. Like, I didn't really have close friends that played Bandori, and I don't know that I was like expecting to make close friends or anything, especially not immediately. But I mean, I wanted to know more people who played, and I got that out of it. I remember like VCing with people like Ben, like way before I knew anyone, and Ben, like he just I don't know, he's like really easy to get along with. Like he's kind of loud, but he's like really talkative and friendly. Like I don't know, I basically I felt included pretty quickly, and also he was also trying to like make friends with people so he could have people to help with his Luminous server. So like, I'm not saying he was faking it all, but like, I mean, he had like an incentive there to, you know, get to know me a bit, and that made me feel included. So that was cool. So like mid-event, I ended up getting invited to a server for another event. So that was kind of how the whole thing started for me. And yeah, tiering in the server was fine. I mean, it was like, it was versus, so there weren't full rooms most of the time, and it was a dead event, so I didn't actually play that much, but like I got some experience for sure. Okay. And yeah, and then after that, like I got into the server for Beating in the Rain, which Loon tiered, and Loon was when I was thinking about going for Cursed Well and all, like Loon was the person I was told to ask for advice. So it was pretty easy for me later on to be able to be like, hey, can I help you with your event? Because that was Loon's first T1. And I ended up feeling a lot for that, I'm pretty sure. There's actually this really good meme that got made on it's on the Bandori Reddit, and basically what happened was someone pubbed into me, Circuit, Novaterran, and either Tango or Loon, and they all had like podiums on, and I had my T10, and the person posted it to the subreddit and was like, they were like, Mikayla's out here slacking because I didn't have a podium. It's actually like the funniest post ever.
Of course, later, will they not know that, you know, a year and a little bit later, you just didn't Slack anymore. But, you know, we'll talk about it a bit later for sure.
That's true. Yeah. And I ended up after that point, I was able to just like, I would see links here and there, or I was able to just ask to join a server.
So it's really interesting to hear that Loon was like one of your like I guess your mentors in the past. When you first got into it. Like in general, like what kind of advice were you able to learn the most when it comes to tiering when speaking with these big veteran names? Like you mentioned a lot of veteran names, which people in the community now probably they sort of think of it as like relics at this point. But what kind of advice that like did you get from these veteran players that were able to help you in your tiering career?
I think the most important thing was I guess there's a couple. For one, I was able to learn like how much an event costs, and like how to be prepared before an event. I think that's really important because a lot of people try to go into it, like without enough resources, or like they think they need more resources than they do, so like they lose opportunities because they take too long preparing. If that makes sense. The other thing is that songs per hour are way more important than EP, and that like efficiency matters. I learned that pretty early on, especially on a versus, because like I mean, when I saw us like starting with less than 5 people, I was like, oh, okay. I understand. Like I don't know if I got it immediately. There were actually I definitely didn't get it immediately. There was even a time where I ended up like pubbing because I didn't want to 2-man and like be the doormat when I was on a budget. Because I would get more EP if I just pubbed, and to be fair, I was on a budget, so like I think it was pretty fair that I wanted to like get as much EP as possible. But like in general, I learned the concept of like how important efficiency is and like building a lead. And yeah, I think that's like I think that's a really important thing to learn early on.
It's something that I think throughout this whole podcast for quite a while with many of our guests. That's just something that we've been hammering for quite a while about efficiency and such. It's definitely something that's when you first think of tiering, you're not really like so I guess keen on that. You think that it's like trying to play the game as best as possible, but again, it's tapping buttons outside of Unite from A to Z is probably even more important than the actual tapping in the game, which is pretty definitely quite interesting. Definitely a learning curve, but it's something that it's great that you learned early, and something that again we hope that many future tiers also get to appreciate as well. I think that's definitely one of the best advices one could give. And Mikayla, one thing that is just really just fascinating is that again you were sort of mentored by all these these veteran players, and then fast forward maybe not even I'm not sure if it even was like a year. It could have been just a few months. Fast forward a few months, and you're the one kind of guiding other people and being sort of like a really prominent figurehead of the community. I know Pastry, when he joined us earlier, he said that he got a lot of advice and support from you, as well as your own brother Star joining as well. Partially because of your influence and support. So it's really interesting. So what kind of changed your mindset to like go from to be able to say what, I want to like grow the community and help build it as much as possible for newer players.
I think it's just kind of like how I am with that kind of thing. But like I mean, it's not gonna like come naturally unless I like know what I'm talking about. So like once I had more experience, like I was always pretty talkative in servers and stuff, but once I had more experience, I was like actually helping people because I like, you know, had advice to give and all. And I mean, there's a lot of people who are like interested in events but like don't really know what to do, or like would want to get a T10 but like think they can't do it, and then like you see their team and their star count and it's like, oh, you totally can do this. You just need to know what it takes. And I would say there's like I mean, I can't think of specific examples necessarily, but there's definitely like a few examples of me like telling that exact thing to people, like saying like that they have enough to like go for the event they want to go for, and like them doing it, and then them like tiering stuff in the future too. So it's pretty cool.
It's really awesome to like get that sort of get people to kind of trust you and get to really show and communicate with you, and because they know that, you know, you're someone who can give good advice, is a good leader, and it's you know, very great to see that you were able to grow into that figurehead again. I'm sure that you know, it's something that you would do again, you know, to get that, you know, build that leadership role and grow the community. You know, if you had the chance to do it again, I imagine that you would do so. Yeah. Oh, good. So like, even as like again now, I'm just gonna go on a whim. I could be wrong, but you know, I don't think you necessarily play the game as much anymore, but it's still something that you like to see, to support people in their tiering adventures. I do know that you're in quite a few servers to help moderate servers as well. That's you know, definitely a different role, and overall, was there like maybe an interesting moderating experience you had with the tiering server in the past?
I don't know about like a particularly interesting one, but like anytime there's a contested event, I mean, that's just like, depending on how invested I am in the person that I'm moderating for, I mean, that's like a whole experience. Like, I guess a particularly good one is My Ideal Self, which was Atsui versus Asta. And on that one, like, that was, I don't think until that point there was ever like an event where it really felt like two people like fought from start to end. Like maybe some early ones, but like people didn't really know what they were doing in that case, and I wasn't around at the very least. But I think most of the time, like, someone stops at some point. This one was like literally like two separate servers. Everyone, like, they were both planning to fight the whole way. And there were some other cases of that, but like people would like drop beforehand or whatever. But this one they didn't, and it was, I mean, they both went like 40 mil on a 150% CL. So like, man. It was a lot. And I remember like checking trackers all the time, like trying to see how much of a lead Atsui had. This was like, Asta was like helped out by Tango. I think Tango might have tiered with him, or at least he was supposed to. And Tango's the one who usually makes the tracking sheets. So that meant IPN, who was helping Atsui, had to like make a new tracking sheet basically from scratch, like for a CL. So like I was helping tweak that algorithm for that like midway through. I'm not actually good with math at all or anything. It was just like I noticed like the way it was like tracking the lead that like Atsui had, or like whichever of them had, it wasn't like really accurately doing it, because it would like assume the other person like stops while one person starts burning their CP or something. Which is just not how it works in practice. So like I was just like very involved. It was really hectic. Atsui was like, Atsugi is someone who literally had never played anything below expert um, until that event where we forced them to. Because it was like, it was bad. Like they were dying, and they really needed to play a lower difficulty. And like, I think if you look at their profile now, like you'll see like 2 songs cleared on normal or something, and that's like that's because of this. And yeah,
Wow.
that was really crazy.
Yeah, but again, when it comes to tiering servers, having really good moderators is very is also very very important. I know a lot of people, even if they make a new tiering server, they tend to find people more veteran people in the community to try and help with moderation because they know a lot of stuff. They have the experience. They know how to make sure people are moving the rooms forward, making sure that the server is managed well, and of course stuff like tracking, especially in a competitive event, is um, very important. So yeah, and again, your work from you and from many of our moderators out there who do that is it's very well appreciated. Kind of like TOs in fighting games.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I do want to talk a little bit more about sort of your own experiences in tiering, and how you were able to get that T1. But before we do that, we're just going to take a quick break on the podcast. We will refill in a minute, and we will continue to set very shortly. So we will see you all very soon. The Refill Studio is brought to you by the UNGA Discord server. Feel free to join us. Links are in the description below, and you'll be able to join our community who's passionate about Bang Dream and tiering in the game, and you'll also get the chance to meet with some of our special guests featured in this podcast series. It's a great time, fun place to host events, and we hope to see you there. The Refill Studio will be back very shortly. All right, everyone. Refill complete. We will continue to set. Right now, again, a special guest, Mikayla, has been joining us and talking a little bit more about her experiences getting into tiering and eventually, helping out in terms of growing the community and learning more about how to give, being the big figurehead that she is in the community for quite some time. Now, we could step a little bit away from that and actually talk about your own tiering experience and how you were able to get your first T1. Again, very great accomplishment to get a T1 under for separate paths under one sky. What before we talk about the actual experience, what kind of prompted you to say, you know what, I want to go for a T1, and how did you prepare for that event?
I think the main thing that went through my head was like, I have my T10, so this was like before I got my second T10, mind you. I have a T10. I think I'm good with just, I need to get a podium or like I think I said I wanted a T1, so that way I would have that. I wouldn't really care about getting anything lower, and I would just be able to stop, because I didn't want to like go too crazy with tiering, like spend too much money, all that stuff. And yeah, I originally really wanted to go for T1 on the Cycling Seasons event, the Glasses Round one, but my team was like not that good, and it was a CL, and I probably could have made it, but I didn't really realize at the time, and I wasn't gonna like risk it on an event like that. So originally my plan was to go for Stand By You. Like as soon as I got announced, I was like, okay, this is pretty nice. I really like this song. I really like this title. I think I'll tier this, and then this will just be like my last event. What ended up happening, first of all, is Bandori 2 came around, and I was going for T100, rushed it, got really tempted to go for T10 and went for T10. So that sure was something. And that was like my first hard event, I would say. Even though it died like halfway through or something. Like I was playing from behind. So like, I mean, my free time basically was just tearing, even though it wasn't like insane hours or anything. Because I was in school at the time. Anyways, but a bit after that was when Separate Paths got announced, and I was like, okay, this is the event I'll go for. I don't need to go for Stand By You. I like this title more. It has run as a 4-star. I really like Mocha 2, and I read the story. I read like a translation of it, and I really, really liked it. So I was like, this is my event. Then I got baited into still going for Glasses Round. I think I literally like got asked to tier it, and I was like, well, it does look kind of dead. I guess I really want to. And I realized that and the titles match really well together, at least on JP. I don't think they match quite as well on EN, but like their fonts are literally the same on JP. So I was like, this is perfect. I'll go for T1 for this, T2 for that. They'll complement each other. It'll look really good. And that was the plan. And that I didn't actually end up tiering anything else aside from that. So at least I stuck to that. But yeah, a lot of prep went into it because I was like, I mean, since I was set on going for first, well, first of all, for Stand By You, I was doing this too, where I was just really cautious of like seeing like who would go for the event, trying to like recruit a roster, but like we didn't make servers that early at the time for like anything. So I was just like trying to like DM people. Then when I ended up switching events, I did the same thing. I like caught wind of some competition really fast, and I was like expecting a super hard event. And I had some people I was going to tier with, so I wasn't like too worried, but I was like very, very prepared. And I think I made my server around like February last year, and the event was in October. And at the time that was like pretty early to be like posting a server. And yeah. And I mean, I'm not really sure what else there's to say about it. Like I picked some mods, I got a roster. I had Savivo on my podium roster, and we talked a lot, so like at least I felt good about like having someone I knew to tier with.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Who whale-fluenced you to go for Glasses Run?
I want to say it was Yujin, the T1. I think she like asked for help or something, and then was like, "You should go for it with me," something like that. I don't quite remember, but I think that's what happened. And I already had noticed that the titles matched, so like it was really easy for me to get on board.
Yeah.
I was really banking on it being dead though, and it was not quite that dead. It was probably the hardest event I've tiered. Like Separate Paths ended up being very easy. Like I know it's T1 hours, but like it was very dead. I got to stop like after like 2 24-hour grinds, and then I just like mostly coasted. I played like a set here and there. But for cycling seasons, like for one, I was pretty busy at the time because I mean it's April during a college semester. Like it's always pretty busy. And it's a CL. So I yeah, I mean you have to play a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know, you have to play a bit more because you have to burn CP, obviously, but you
Mm-hmm.
also have to play more than you normally would because like you don't know how far your competition really is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the big danger of challenge lives, and a lot of our guests already mentioned how challenge lives can be a very stressful kind of event format. Mikayla, is really interesting, especially when you mentioned that your T1 wasn't necessarily the most challenging event you did, and it's kind of a shared sentiment with many of our guests here who did end up getting T1. They all pretty much have mentioned that their T1s have not been as difficult as some of their podium or T10 titles, and I think it just really shows like how you know the preparation that someone makes for T1 is definitely very impressive, to the point where they could really, like, again, it is very difficult, but the amount of extra preparation they do to go for it just makes it like a much more I guess stressless adventure compared to a bit more of a last minute decision or last minute influence from other people to try and go for an event. It definitely makes things a lot more difficult. I was just going to mention or ask you about what was your the hardest event you tiered, but you basically already answered that. But
Yeah.
yeah, in terms of that overall event though, like were you able to achieve what you wanted to get, and despite the challenges you had to face?
For cycling seasons?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My goal was T2. I honestly really wanted the T1, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't prepared to do that, and it's not like I was gonna snipe from within the server.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went for T2. I got it, barely.
Mm-hmm.
I I I wouldn't say that like I almost voted or anything, but like I basically was really worried about saving enough stars for my T1 attempt. So I would say I didn't play as hard as I should have, and I made things a bit like, I mean, if you look at the final EP, like the T3 Frost, who played with us, I mean, he ended like really close to me just because I was like trying to go as cheap as possible, which I would not recommend. But yeah, yeah, it went as planned, and it felt really, really rewarding. Because there were like a ton of chasers. Like that was if it wasn't the most woke CL, well, it definitely wasn't for podium. But like if it wasn't the most woke CL T10, it was like second place easily. Like it was that there were like 11 people. There were not even 11 people. It was more. Like there were just tons of people going for it. It was really weird. This is when quarantine had just started. So
Yeah.
if you look at the events around then, like from like full blooming all the way to like, I don't know, Band Girls of the Dead or something, like everything at least was woke at a point. I don't know, like they didn't all stay woke the whole way through, but like, and the T100s around them were like really, really expensive. It was insane. And this was like one of the first major examples of that. And yeah, there were like a couple of podium chasers. There were a bunch of T10 chasers. But it ended up okay.
Oh, well, that's honestly great to hear. Again, getting that T2 and then eventually getting the T1. It's a really funny thing that we always mention, that events that like maybe are like seem to be dead are like the most dangerous, because if you're thinking that like the event is dead, you're probably not the only one thinking that.
Yeah, exactly.
So then whale thoughts happen, and and it becomes a lot more competitive than you really think it would be.
And the inverse can happen too. Like look at there's like, I mean, there's separate paths. I don't know if other people thought that would be woke, but like good examples are like Noble Rose 2 and 3. Like people were really worried about those to the point where like a bunch of them just decided not to do it. And then it ended up not being so crazy.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That was very very interesting. But yeah, it's like a very interesting mentality that goes into preparing and
Yeah.
going for events. So yeah, overall, like again, you got your T1, and after your T1, what were your thoughts about after getting your T1? Is like it's like that's it, I'm done. Like I got my title, everything's good to go. Now I could sort of retire and go from there. Was that kind of your plan?
I've never really formally, well, okay, maybe in the past, like beforehand, I had thought, yeah, that would be the last thing I do. But like after a while, like I never was really planning on retiring there. It was just like, I don't know, I didn't want to like make plans like that anymore. And I mean, having to like T1K to like save up for stuff, like having to like play constantly, it's not like ridiculously hard, but it's not the most fun thing in the world.
For sure.
So my main goal after that point was getting Dreamfest 2 run. Like I really needed that card. So I mean I saved for that. I was like fairly prepared to spark her. I didn't have to. But then after that, I haven't really had anything that I was planning for. Like I figured I would go for a T10 here or there. And I still might. I'm definitely open to that, and there's some events that interest me, but I'm not saving like that. I've mainly been focusing on gacha since then. Yeah, and I'm not spending as much. I mean, I've never spent like a ridiculous amount on the game, but I mean, obviously with the amount of titles and cards I have, it's above average. But
yeah, that's perfectly fair, perfectly fine. And I don't know if you have any future plans for events that you want to share, or is that still something that is in the works?
It's definitely still up in the air. I've like thought about getting like a T3, but I think it's a lot more realistic that I would just go for like a more casual T10. Like obviously it's still work, but a T3 is like, I mean, I would need to save for a very long time to be ready for that.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I've like thought about a bunch of events and like going for like really high placings on them, but I haven't ever really been motivated to follow through with those. So I'm just playing the game really.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. So especially, I think it's also just very interesting and something that our viewers could definitely learn about. Like, you could definitely be someone who's just very, in general, quite passionate about the game, and in general, play it relatively casually, and not be like too big of a spender, and yet at the same time, have someone who, have a T2 title, have a T1 title. It's definitely possible. It's something.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to like full on retire. Like unless like the game is like ridiculously tempting to you and you need to like uninstall to like get away from that. Like just because you're unmotivated or whatever doesn't mean you need to like full on quit, like delete the game, leave servers and all. Like you can just chill if you're cool with that.
Yeah, for sure. So anything is possible if you're someone who is out there, playing the game, and you're like, oh, maybe try tiering for something. It's definitely doable. And again, for those who may be a bit unmotivated in the game, there are definitely ways to cope around burnout, especially. I see many people in the community that they're like, oh, Bang Dream Girls Fan Party, my least favorite game, but they always find a way to come back.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do.
Yeah. So. Well, Mikayla, it's great to talk a little bit more about talk about Bang Dream and as a game, and how this game has been really a big part of our lives in terms of the community that we built and tiering. There's another genre of games that you're actually quite passionate about, and that's actually something I'm pretty passionate about too, and those are the fighting games. Although this is a Bang Dream podcast, I do want to talk a bit briefly about fighting games because I also want to share, why I guess you and me we both like the genre of games. So like, how did you get into fighting games to start off?
So I think roughly what happened was, well, I had some friends at school who were like into Street Fighter a
Mm.
bit, and especially there was like one of them who was like volunteering at this tournament took me there. I got to like check that out. It was like a regional or something.
Mm.
And around this time, I like tried out Street Fighter 4 or whatever.
Mm.
But I also was into the Persona series, and I got Persona 4 Arena, and that was like the first fighting game that I like really got into, and I just like kept playing it, and I couldn't really get like my school friends to get into that. I don't know if I really tried, but like I don't remember, but that was how I ended up like finding online communities and getting into the FGC and eventually going to locals around where I live. Um, and yeah, it all started with Persona. Then they made it. Then I tried Blaze Blue because it was from the same developers. I even imported it from Japan when it came out, BBCP. Um, and then they made another Persona, and I was like super ready to like go in on that game, and I mean I did like I played it a lot. Um, then that game died off, and around the time that it was when I finally went like out of state to go to a major.
Mm.
Um, and I mean I had friends that I wanted to see, and I actually felt ready to compete. So like I mean I did, and I don't remember how I placed, but I did okay. Um yeah, I went to a Persona tournament,
Who do you
and yeah,
main?
around that, huh?
Who do you main?
Yukari.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yukari was. I didn't really play too much Persona, or I didn't actually really play Persona at all. But if I played a character, it'd probably be like Yukari would definitely be one of the characters I would try for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if she fits my playstyle that well. I don't even know what playstyle really suits me the best, but I don't think I don't know if it's that. Like she's pretty mobile and has zoning. And both of those are fun, but I don't know if like that's the main thing I want to do. I like having like better normals than she does.
Fair.
But I really like her as a character, and I do find her fun enough. So like I mean I ended up enjoying her a lot and like studying the character a lot and like looking for tech. I never was really good at it, but looking at a lot of matches and trying to like get stronger. And yeah, I never got too good at it. I've honestly never been like particularly great at any game, but I've gotten like okay placings at locals and stuff. But around that time when Persona was dying was when I was looking for another game because it was like really dying. And that was when and I think Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator was coming out soonish. Like I think it came out in May of that same year. Like May 2016, I want to guess. I tried like Street Fighter 5 first when it came out, and I didn't really get like super into it.
Fair.
Although I did like it enough, but like not enough to like really, learn. But the new Guilty Gear, like I didn't like Xrd Sign, but I had a lot of fun with Xrd Revelator because I liked all the new characters they added. And I mean, the game felt different from when I tried it the first time. And I tried the original Xrd a decent amount. I just never could get into it. But But yeah, so that ended up being my game. I like really loved watching Guilty Gear, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always liked playing it too, but um even before I played it, I loved watching it. And I ended up doing some streaming stuff and like video content for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um like I was the main channel for uploads for JP matches
Mm.
for AdSurd. And yeah, I met a lot of people from doing that. Um,
Mm.
that's really why I have so many have a lot more followers than other people on Bandori Twitter. It's not because of Bandori, I promise, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to flex
Hey,
at
that's
all.
low key. Low key, that's kind of me as well. When my Twitter was mostly Smash at first, and then I kind of switched gears into to Bandori, so I have a little bit more of a bigger base as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like it, Bandori Twitter, at least tiering Twitter is like obviously not
Yeah,
big,
no, not big at all. Not big. Is
but
now like
fighting games are pretty
Strive?
big.
Is Strive now your main game? And if
Um,
so, do you main anyone in particular?
Ever since COVID, I haven't really played fighting games that much,
Fair,
sadly.
fair,
Just 'cause
fair.
the ones I want to play like don't have good netcode, and then Strive came
Yeah,
out and it doesn't play like the Guilty Gear that I really like.
fair, fair.
And I didn't have a character.
Hmm.
They literally released my character 2 days ago though. Which is Jacko. But
Yeah.
she's well, she was my character in Atsword. I ended up switching off of her. But
Hmm.
she's really cool in Strive, but she's like a lot more effort than the rest of the cast, so it's like hard to make it feel worth it. Like even
Fair.
though like I do want something that's like more effort than a regular Guilty Gear Strive
Uh-huh.
character, I it feels really silly playing a character like that when I could like play something way better and way easier.
Yeah. So
But
so
we'll see. I mean, she came out 2 days ago, so
yeah,
maybe I'll give
yeah.
her some more time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Again, I have a lot of few friends. I never really got into Guilty Gear too much, but I have a few friends who were really interested in the game, and I haven't had the chance to really get into it either. But yeah, I'm also low key kind of quite interested in Jacko as well. We'll see how things go. See if I have time
Yeah.
to play. um, it, it's really interesting again that like again fighting games are just something that like I think is a much bigger community, of course, fighting a community
Hmm.
compared to Bandori. Like, do you have you ever found a niche or like a niche community where they like both fighting games and rhythm games? Because to be honest, I found like I don't think I've really found like anyone
No,
with that niche.
I don't like there's people here and there, but
Yeah,
like they're always a lot more invested into one than the other, I feel.
yeah, yeah.
Um
That's right.
and yeah. I mean, most of my closest friends are fighting game players. I mean I'm good friends with a good amount of Bandori players too. But
Mm-hmm.
like my I mean the people that I've like literally like visited and stuff come from fighting games. And I think it's also just like easier to, I mean, it's a lot easier to meet people who play fighting games just because there's
Mm-hmm.
literally events for them. It's a lot harder to like get involved with just like a random rhythm game. I mean, I wouldn't say fighting games are big,
Mm-hmm.
but like I wouldn't say the dedicated community for Bandori is that big either.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, sure, the game has like tons of players, but that's different from
Mm-hmm.
like what we're thinking of, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely is. Yeah, it's a definitely very different, very unique. And again, I do agree with your sentiment that there are people that I think do enjoy both rhythm games and fighting games, but yeah, they did really prioritize one or the other. I think when I started, I was mostly a Smash guy and Bandori second, and then things definitely changed later, and it kind
Yeah.
of flipped the priorities. Priorities flipped. I haven't really met someone who is like very focused on like both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting though, like I want to get your opinion on that. Is there any part of like you like? Is there any like parts like skill sets or anything that you learned from playing fighting games that translates into being able to tier in Bang Dream? Have you found anything that like maybe like that were able to connect it to? You maybe competing in a tournament in a fighting game and you tiering for an event.
I think I wouldn't say I'm like good at this, but I think going to tournaments has helped me learn to deal with nerves. And I think like I think tiering can be nerve-wracking, or I mean there's like a good amount of pressure like to compete for something. So yeah, I would say that definitely helps. I think experience in fighting games also made me a more competitive person than I would have been without them.
Yep.
And that carries into Bandori, that carries into Revy Starlight Relive, which I play and I'm very competitive in. And I don't know. I think when you're in that environment where like everyone goes to tournaments, like the main event type is just tournaments. I mean, you're gonna at least get a little bit competitive, I think. Like even if you wouldn't classify yourself as a competitive person, like you're gonna get some of it for sure.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah, like again, I think the competitive spirit of learning in like other games like Rugby Starlight or just fighting games in general, it does carry over in Bang Dream as well. Like especially if it's a competitive event. Again, a lot of the times we have the it's kind of easy to think that Bandori events are they're very, very team focused, very fun, but and when especially it's competitive, those who do have that competitive drive are those who are quite successful. So I definitely see a connection between the two. I also think it's really interesting. I'm not sure if you noticed or you've thought about this as well, but like when you're thinking about like competitive Bang Dream events, and I'm saying Bang Dream events are getting more competitive in general because I think the community is growing, and I think more people in general are just more interested in trying to get higher titles, which overall is pretty healthy for the game. But again, because there's more competition, there's going to be more preparation needed, and I think especially if you're going to like a big fighting game regional, you want to like you look at your bracket and you start scouting your opponents and you kind of see, okay, what does this guy do, and what does this person play, and kind of get to learn a bit more. And I think in Bandori, in the competition aspect as well, it's similar. You're going to scout your opponents, see who else is going for that that T1 or the T10, and you kind of see what kind of history they've had in the past and previous tiering, and make decisions from there. So I think as much as that could be a little bit of a reach, I think that is something that is pretty similar to in the two fields as well.
Yeah, I think I mean it's not like the actual like competing versus them is like, it's not like your knowledge is really going to help you, or that like the actual tiering part is like that complicated. I mean, it's not easy, but like I mean, you're just playing the game and sleeping and playing the game. Like that part is simple, but like you still prepare in a similar way. Like you definitely want to know what you're up against. I mean, especially if you're like putting your all into something. Like I think it's very natural to want to be as prepared as you can, even if in Bandori like there's limits to how much you can actually do. Like you're still, I think it's I think it's cool to like try and prepare like that. And I definitely did that too.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a interesting mix there. In general, though, one thing I really like about fighting games in general, I think it's just it's definitely very unique that you do have to apply a lot of fast-paced critical thinking skills. Like that's one of the main things I really like about fighting games. Like you're putting a lot of fast-paced critical thinking skills. It looks flashy. It looks cool when cool things happen. And I think ultimately it's a way to sort of express yourself. Everyone could play the same character, but the way they play it can be very different. It's a very unique art that you're able to sort of express yourself and how you play and how you want to control a game. So that's why I really enjoy fighting games myself. Of course, I do hope to get back into it in the near future and kind of get back to things. But I'm not sure if you have a similar or maybe a different reason why fighting games became one of your favorite genres as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good reason as well. I don't really think newer games let you express yourself that well because they're getting very simple lately. But at least the games that I like, there's just lots of interactions, lots of characters, like infinite possible play styles and things you can do in a single match. And there isn't a right answer a lot of the time, which is cool. Like you can kind of just take your own approach at it. It makes them very hard, which is why I never felt like I got good at them. But it's really rewarding when things go right, even on even on a small scale. You don't even have to be winning a tournament or anything. You could just beat your friend or punish a move a move in a situation that you haven't been able to do before, and you just feel really good about it. I don't know. They definitely let you express yourself. They let you do really cool things, and
exactly.
I think that's great.
Yeah, fighting games are quite good. So hopefully, when for our viewers out there, might be listening to this podcast, of course, being a rhythm game fan, that maybe we've convinced you to eventually become a fighting game fan as well. I think it'll be good to have more people like us who appreciate both genres of games.
Try Melty Blood next month.
Okay.
I think. Huh?
I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think that game looks really promising for being the type of fighting game that a lot of people have wanted. Where it has good netcode, which is a must, but it also has seems like it has a lot of options to be creative and all. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope it's as good as it looks.
For sure. At the end of the day, especially with fighting games, there isn't a right answer to things, as long as, again, it's a way to really showcase your knowledge, critical thinking, quick thinking skills, and of course a way to express how you play a particular character. Unlike unfortunately, in contrast to Bang Dream, where there is only one answer, and that's QZ and fast menuing. And maybe whaling.
And an optimal team is an optimal team. There's just it's very linear. But you get to work with people, which is fun in its own way. It's definitely not as deep, but obviously it's fun. I've put years into it, so.
Hopefully in the future, Bushiroad will do the super big brain thing that will never happen. But the big brain thing that will never happen, in that they will make a fighting game with their franchises.
They totally could too if they did a crossover one. A Bandori one wouldn't work, right? But they have Vanguard, Review, they have all this stuff. They could easily make something. I know they won't, but
yeah. That would be very interesting though.
But it would not be that hard.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that could carry over, especially for Review or Vanguard or
give Eva Sword.
Yeah, true. Give Eva Sword. Yep, that also just works. Just that one lone Bandori representative, Bushido rep. So yeah. Mikayla, it was honestly a great pleasure having you today on this podcast. We talked so much about so many interesting things about tiering, the community, and even a little bit about other games. So hopefully again our viewers had a very interesting perspective on your tiering experience and the other interests that you have. Do you have any last words you want to say to the viewers, or any last shout outs?
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything. I guess if people have questions about tiering or anything, I'm always available, and I'm in your server now, so I'm pretty easy to reach.
Yeah. Again, all of our special guests in the RePHIL studio are in my Discord server, so links are in the description. You can join the UNGA Academy, and you could also be able to contact Mikayla, and also you can follow her social media, Twitter. Twitter's on the video as well, so you can give her a follow. And of course, Mikayla, in the case in the future that you do end up deciding to go for an event and tier for it and make a server, very well that many of our viewers here, and hopefully myself included, will be able to support you if that whale urge to maybe get a T3 in the future comes back.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to the RePHIL studio today. The set has been complete, and we hope to see you at the next RePHIL when the next set begins with our next special guest. But with that out of the way, thank you all so much for listening. This is the RePHIL studio and your host, SB Philos 4. We will catch you all in the next episode. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.